So thank you so much. My name is Esther and I'm a Swiss ophthalmologist. And I've been working in Western Europe as a regional representative for the students and junior doctors for now 10 years. So since I'm stepping down from my work in Western Europe, I will first of all talk about last year, what happened, and then just look a little bit back over the last 10 years, what has been developed. So just to remind again, like the old, let's say the old Western Europe was this map here. You can see 10 countries. And we are talking about 280, roughly 280 medical and dental schools in this area. So basically we feel like, wow, quite it's a high number. It's very developed in the West. But to be honest, once it comes to faith, things are completely different. It's a post-Christian region and the work is not always that easy as we think it could be. So looking like from 2020 to 2021, of course, we all had to find our answers to the new normal. I think we heard already quite well from Peter what has happened. We went all online. And also we faced actually the challenge that people, students and junior doctors were quite isolated, lonely. And we thought, let's run 3 online courses, which were the DMM course that we already heard from Nurgul, what it was about. So the aim was mainly to go from a personal to a public faith that multiplies and disciples healthcare professionals. So people could sign up for this one. And the second one was very interesting indeed as well, which was about choices in life, because we notice in the West that the medical students, they always worry a lot about making choices because they think maybe I'm actually gonna make a wrong choice and miss out something else that would be very interesting. So here, like Rick, he gave some just like very practical insight what the Bible says about these topics. And then, of course, the third course that we were running is the Sydenham course that is mainly targeted to leaders to be trained to actually serve in the students' ministry. So these 3 trainings were a blessing for people, but of course we were challenged basically to really reach out to our students and junior doctors since no travels were possible, no meetings face to face. So also we had to postpone our planned Irish or Western Europe conference in Ireland to this year, and hopefully it will happen at the end of that year. So this is a very brief summary of what was going on in Western Europe. I can say from the development in the country itself, it was very difficult to follow up. And I would say the work was mainly stagnating or a little bit getting better in each country. Now I would like to take you on a small journey, the working journey that I went through from 2011 till today. And I always would like to highlight a few things that I felt were very interesting to learn, and I'd like to share it with you. So when I was appointed as a regional representative, for me, everything looked very vague. I had no clear idea what's going on in these 10 different countries that have not the same culture, not the same language, different mentalities, and also the religions are different, from evangelicals to Catholics, we have everything. So first of all, I was like, Lord, what shall I do? What's the first step? And at that time, I decided just to pray. So there was a long time just of prayers, asking God to open the right doors. And I really would like to encourage each of you to never neglect prayer, because it's our foundation in anything we do. Because what we heard also from Kevin right before, God has his own ways, and sometimes for us it doesn't look very logical, but he will open the doors in interesting ways. And here I would like to share with you 2 happenings that were taking place throughout my time, and that it shows clearly that God has his plan and he will do it. And it's not my calculations how actually I can get into the countries. So Italy used to be an extremely difficult area to get in touch with people, find Christian doctors and medical students, since the background is very Catholic and just people were very reserved when it came to faith. So a friend from secondary school gave me an address and the phone number of Emanuela, who you can see on this picture. And she said, just phone her, she's a medical student and a believer. So I called her. And she thought actually I'm another Esther, and she thought I'm her very good friend. So she was extremely delighted that I was calling her, and she talked to me as if I'm her friend. And at some point I said, Emanuela, I think I'm not this Esther. Please, wait a minute, listen, like I'm this and this and this. But this conversation led to the point that our first Western Europe conference was run in Rome. So I think only God can guide things like that. Second one was Fedi. Fedi is also in Italy. And I went to the World Exhibition in Milano, and there was a guide. And this guide was named Fedi. And like he showed me and my friends a little bit the different towers and houses. And he said, like, look, I would like to study medicine, and I'm a believer. So at that time, I felt there is a link, and I felt like this man needs to be pushed to get into medicine. He might be a key person later on. And again, I can tell you, how can it be that at a certain exhibition, you meet someone who is later the leader of a vibrant movement in Italy? So just to encourage you, keep praying and do things that you think usually it might not make sense, but it's going to be big door openers. Then once we have an idea of I had an idea of what's going on in the countries, let's conquer the land, let's start to do the work on the ground. And here, as I'd like to show you this picture, this was actually in Rome, our first gathering for like Western Europe medical students and juniors. What I'd like to show here is, if you look at the people, the number is very small, right? And sometimes we tend to think the bigger the number, the more impact we will have. But I learned over the years that if the numbers are small, the impact is huge. You get in touch with the people, you get to know them very well. And I can tell you, half of this group here were later on key figures in Western Europe. So I started to like also small numbers. Then, of course, over the time, you face difficulties, and so did I. Basically, in the West, nobody wants to commit for long-term jobs. So I was told I should find or like create a team that would work with me, with the so-called area representatives who would take over, let's say, 3 countries so we can share the work. But I tell you, I was struggling over the years. I never found anyone who said, yes, I'm going to work with you for 2 years. So I had to adjust my strategy, and the strategy looked as this. I thought, okay, Western Europe, I'm going to do a 7-month project. This is the aim, this is the topic, and we will end it with a conference in one of the countries in Western Europe. Who would like to be in? And I tell you, it was not a problem to find people to work with me in this limited time period. So I continued, as you can see, once it's 7 months, once it's 3 months or 6 and so on. You could find people and then they enjoy the work and they stayed long-term. So what happened out of that? Today we can say we have from each country 2 reliable representatives. So it's a team of 16 to 20 people who always were very ready to spread the information of ICMDA, etc., in their countries. So that was a real blessing. And once you have a team, of course, this is the way for great performance. You can move things. So I'd like to show you here, like at the beginning, we had very strong movements in England and the Netherlands. And today we can be very happy thanks to all the teamwork and the very ways that God opened doors. We can say that in each country we do have groups, we do have meetings, and we were able to run conferences in these places, which always help to kick off the work. So this is like a big miracle that has developed over time. I think as a one last or second last slide, I would like to also say thank you, because in these 10 years, I could grow personally a lot. I had wonderful mentors, and I think each one who is listening and knows that has been part of my life, I would like to say thank you. Also, I saw that like I could develop my leadership skills, and I got to know many role models. And I think it's so important in our daily work, or also anywhere where we are, to have role models that always keep us walking. So that sense, I would like to say very much thank you for everything that I could learn during that time. And to end with all that, I have to say we had always one verse that was always like at each conference, mainly one of the leading verses. And this was, take heart and be strong, have no fear and do not be troubled. For the Lord, your God, is with you wherever you go. And I'd like to share that with you and to really encourage you, wherever you work for ICMDA, keep going. Thanks a lot.